Tauihu o te waka a Maui, the northern tip of the South Island. From the very first migration from eastern Polynesia, Māori have thrived on this whenua. But the history of this land is woven from many threads, and the stories that shaped it are a complex timeline of migration, intermarriage, and warfare. But for the 8 iwi who now call this land home, all with unique history and connections, their stories are carved into this whenua.
Hewa anei he tūpuna o Puketapu, Te Atiawa, ko nā māmaku Wiparana, tēnei. Yeah, he noho anei e ki konei ki marahau ki tēnei whenua. So, yeah, anei he pau whenua. Yeah, the initiative was to establish pau whenua in significant places to showcase significant tūpuna. So tūpuna who were, rangatira and who led our people in different ways. So a lot of these rangatira are, our whānau that lived in these places. The Abel Tasman is the busiest national park in New Zealand. So for us, it was about making sure people understood who mana whenua of this whenua are, who the hika are. It's also about how do we put our footprint on the whenua.
Te Tauihu is a land where towering mountains meet windswept coasts and lush forests give way to fertile plains. This rohe stretches from Kahurangi Point on the west coast through Marlborough to Blenheim on the east coast and all the way to the very tip of Te Waipounamu o Netahua.
The pūrākau for Onetahua is around Maui and when he fished up your island, the island that you guys live in. The ika a Maui. When he was pulling that ika up, he had 1 foot here and 1 foot in Kaikoura. And when he was pulling it up, that's how the sand heaped up. You see the curvature. So a number of years ago, dock staff brought off these bones. They thought they were seal bones, but we had the pathologist look at them and they were human. So we took them back out and re-interned them. There's a number of urupā out there, and then the sands out there shift so much, and so when the sands shift, the koiwi come up.
They've been able to determine in the starch particles that was the first place that kuma was grown in Polynesia. So there was quite a settlement down here. But I mean, why would you not come here? There was heaps of food and really sheltered.
Mīnoi tātou. Haruru te rangi nā tātā te rangi he ao ki runga he ao ki raro. Ko koutou te rokatia te whiro whiwhiri mai te whiro kairunga. Awhi nuku, awhi rangi, awhi papa, awhi taua, ti hei, MΑORI. Ta boi. Where the uri of the heking are coming from Kawhia, Waikawo, and then into Taranaki and then down into here. Raru are the Tainui iwi, and the Tokomaru iwi are Te Atiawa and Ngāti Tama. And so those 3 iwi have close relationships. If it wasn't for our ancestors working together, none of us would be here now. And so it's really important to ensure that we maintain our mana on the whenua. Over the years, there've been iwi come and iwi go, and so that represents ngā haere whā, everyone that's been here and even us that are here now. So we acknowledge that there were iwi here before us, but now we've taken up the responsibility of being the kaitiaki.
For us, it's a really spiritual place. It just holds a lot, for me anyhow. I feel very strongly that we're connected here, and we know that our tupuna are always around when we come out here.
So what are the key parts? So what's the name of the waka? Uru Ao. Who's the captain? Yeah, and what's the name of his call? Tūwhakaroria. And once he's travelled down the Waipounamu, he comes back to where? Yeah, and then he plants his core at the top of the peninsula. And what's the name of the maunga? Tuhirangi. Cool, okay.
The 8 iwi who occupy this whenua arrived over centuries of migration from different waka, Kurahaupo, Tainui and Tokomaru. But many of the whānau can also trace their origins back to the first ancestors who migrated from Hawaii.
Rangitani kind of has two origin stories. One of our origin stories begins at Wairoba, Te Pukahiwi o Kupe, when those ancestors arrived. And then our other origin story goes back to Kurahaupo Waka. So we share whakapapa with our Rangitani cousins in the North Island. And then the late 1600s, people started to migrate over to Te Tauihu. Those migrations then married into people who were already here. So the Rangitani people acquired possession of the place through intermarriage more than warfare. And then later on, those people kind of mix up and become who we are.
This area is important to us for a number of reasons. Over the years, we've lived here on and off. When we were travelling through the area to collect stone, pounamu, whatever, we would stop off here to replenish. And that goes all the way back to the very first arrival of our people 800 years ago.
Ancestors were up and down these highways and byways all the time. So when Te Rauparaha arrived, many of our people came and lived up here, and they lived up here until well after the Pākehās arrived. So when surveyors were coming through here, they actually found our people living up here. One of the issues that we all faced down here was that when the Crown started to make purchases, they would identify areas where Māori would be put onto reserves. And the reserves had a massive impact on us. We got put on reserves at the bottom of the valley, and we were prevented from coming up here and doing what we're doing now. So that's why this place is pretty important, and we should come up here regularly. This place is ours. Prior to colonisation, we followed different harvesting cycles and chased different fish and birds and that kind of thing. But when the reservations were set up and then the settlers arrived and then enforced their own private property rights, it became much more difficult for us to move around and access resources like we once did.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Coming up here, it's about maintaining a relationship with the land and each other and retell our histories and traditions.
That island out there is Motuaori Iti. There's two big motu out there, And they have a part to play in the story of our people travelling through here. There's evidence of us growing kumare out there and living out there. Just also acknowledging our kurahopo iwi and then other iwi prior to that. So, the kurahopo, Ngāti Awhaki Te Rātoa, Ngāti Kuia, Rangitane, Ngāti Koata, they came here too. And then before that, Ngāti Tūmata Kōkiri and some of the older tribes as well. So, we acknowledge that there's been waves of migrations here and people that have been and gone. A lot of our Te Tauihu iwi came across through the Hikinga migrations in the 1820s and 30s. We had all made alliances in the north and came down through those migrations with Te Paraha leading. So it was really a series of migrations and we were all part of that alliance. So this whenua falls under, the kiti or the jurisdiction of our whānau hapu and iwi here in Motueka. So Ngāti Rāroa, Te Atiawa and Ngāti Tama. It's a national park, it's in conservation estate, but to our people it's he taonga tuku iho. So this is the gateway to the Abel Tasman National Park. Abel Tasman, he was a Dutch explorer that came here in 1642. Yeah, so they named the national park after him, but we have a iwi kōrero around the history of these lands. Basically from Motueka all the way around into Onitahua, we had 4 to 5 power sites and settlements, so we occupied this area pretty widely, and I guess a lot of us moved towards Motueka, towards the big river systems when the settlers started coming in.
When European settlers first began to come to Aotearoa, their survival depended on tangata whenua. And Te Tauihu Māori rose to the challenge, selling food and supplies as far away as Australia. Whānau welcomed the establishment of Nelson and the influx of settlers. A deed of purchase was agreed to, but it's the breaches of that contract that has led to the longest-running legal case in the history of Aotearoa.
Really, since the establishment of Nelson as a settlement, which was in 1841, we've known that the basis for how that settlement was established has been flawed. A tupuna at that time essentially agreed to the establishment of what would become Nelson as a rohe, as a region, but subject to 2 really important conditions, which were then enshrined in a legal agreement or a Crown grant. And the 2 critical conditions were firstly that all of our papakainga, our wāhi tapu, our places where we cultivated kai would be protected for the whānau hapu and iwi, and then secondly that from the Nelson settlement, 1/10 of the land that would be set aside would also be reserved for us in perpetuity, so forever. But unfortunately, almost from day one of signing the Crown grant, those legal obligations were essentially breached. And so while some of the land that becomes known as the Nelson Tenths was reserved, nowhere near what was guaranteed. And so essentially we've been in court, or we've been before Parliament, or we've been before the United Nations since about 1850. So this is one of the original maps that was created in the 1840s. At the time when the Nelson Tenths reserves were being established across the rohe. And so a lot of this type of evidence was presented through our court case in the High Court, in particular over the last 16 years. And the value of this sort of evidence is that it clearly shows what the Crown was required to do at the time in terms of actually laying out those areas of land that needed to be protected and reserved. and we were able to show through the court process where they had failed to do that. So there was absolutely an intent, that reflected the legal arrangements at the time, and the maps prove that. The issue was that the Crown never actually went through and reserved all of the whenua in the way it was supposed to do.
In 2017, the Supreme Court ruled the Crown had failed its duty to honour the agreement. However, this ruling was appealed. The most recent High Court ruling, delivered in October 2024, also found in favour of whakatū, but the government has again signalled that they intend to appeal the ruling.
As a gardener, I don't think you've ever got enough gardens. You can always plant more. There's nothing better than getting your hands in the dirt and, feeling it, I think. It's sort of a really, really, really big thing for us. Reconnecting.
While whakatū are still negotiating the legal road of the Nelson tents, business and whānau are thriving. Smart management of assets have brought their current value from $11 million in 1977 to $350 million today. And the mātauranga Māori that was almost lost is being forged again.
This is a new project focused on Indigenous crops. So we grow heaps of iwai, heaps of kumara, kamokamo, kangapiro, hui, and then we're going to try and do a lot more natives throughout the area. We're hoping by the end of the month we will have our first crops in the ground. Yeah, the people have done a lot of work in cover crops and all that. We noticed that there was a ton of carrots, so we're going to try and weed these beds out and just leave a few rows of carrots. So it was part of the cover crop, but we don't like to waste, so we're hoping that we can get a decent feed of carrots out of here. But then we will roach a hoe over all the rest and use the nutrients from these back into the soil. Pretty much the main part is to try and rejuvenate our Indigenous crop. This is what our people lived on. A lot of our people haven't even tasted it. There's been no one around here in the Motueka area that grows it. We've lost that knowledge, eh? So it's quite a big thing to be able to bring it back. We've got big dreams to be able to feed whānau, eh? There's so much land here and it's set up for us. So why not do our best to be able to feed our whānau? Yeah, we've got a lot to do. Really, really exciting. But she's only got 20 days and then it's whitebait season, so I'll be down the river.
Farewell Spit, or Onetahua, is the longest sandbar in Aotearoa. These days, this 34-kilometre-long strip is a nature reserve, but hundreds of years ago, Māori made use of the abundant resources it had to offer.
So this looks like the skull, and see, look, all the backbone all around here. Traditionally, when the whales stranded up, they were a form of food resource, but they also used the whale bones, and the māori of that whale will continue on. We'd probably average in Te Tauihu 6 sperm whales a year, stranding up. We go all out to save them, and those that we don't save, we normally take the whales and put them down there where the public aren't allowed access, and let nature take its course. And then we'll go back out and get the bone. Yeah. If you look at this bone here is porous, and it only gets worse. So the jawbone is like concrete, but this here is porous. I remember we had a whale stranding here, it would have been 95, and they were sperm whales. And that was my first experience. It was trial and error back then. We were very fortunate because we had some old whalers from the whaling station that were part of the whānau, And so they came across, and man, it was easy. They had all the flensing knives and they knew exactly what they had to do. Within probably 2 hours, the jawbone was out. So yeah, there's lots of memories of people that are no longer here, but they've left that mātauranga with us to be able to do it ourselves.
From early times, Māori throughout the country knew about the abundance of taonga Te Tauihu o te waka a Maui held. The central position made it a natural hub for trade, culture, and intertribal alliance. And the sheltered waterways gave safe passage for travels in and out of the region.
Te Tauihu was just the place to be. It's kind of like microclimate, so you've got a bit of warmth and you've got a bit of cold, but you've got the moana, you have the lakes, you've got the mountains. And so that was just resource heavy. Not only in kai moana, you had the resources within the whenua, like pākohe, pounamu, rākau. I think it was just a place that was so accessible in the middle of Aotearoa, you know, so they had the world at their hand, really. This is my wife Naomi's chickeny area, but that's my pāharakeke, the establishment of my pāharakeke up there. Never really stay in a place long enough for it to really get to age. My siblings and I, we were all born in Australia. Mum and Dad wanted to move back to New Zealand when I was 9 because their parents were getting on. And we moved on to the marae with my grandmother for the first couple of months. This was my grandmother's collection of pākohe. So it's all just flakes that she found or were given to her. This is my little kete of pākohe that has been added to along the way, but it was predominantly my grandmother's collections. That's her there. My upbringing here in Te Tauihu has been tino Māori. I was taught to weave on the veranda of my grandmother's house. So this was my grandmother's, and when she passed away, they got passed on to me as the kaitiaki. I enjoyed the company of my kuia, but I enjoyed sitting down with her and hearing her stories. She was a whakapapa holder. You know, she really fought hard for her iwi, trying to protect the mana of her iwi, and she instilled that into us as well. So this is a rongo marairoa, which is the atua of cultivation and peace. This rongo was found at a place called Mātangiawhio, which is an old pā site around Nelson Port. I think what's special about it is it's an example of a taonga from our past. And over here we have examples of some of our really early taonga Māori, some that date back to basically first arrival from Hawaii. As kaitiaki taonga Māori, my responsibility is to ensure that the taonga are kept safe, the mauri is kept warm, and that the taonga are accessible to our whānau. Someone once said to me that this type of work chooses you, you don't choose it. I guess in reflection, I was probably guided in this direction by my kuia. What I love about these photos are the taonga that you can see being worn, the korowai, the heitiki, the mere pounamu or the patu onewa, the piu-piu, the maukaki, the neck adornments, even the clothing they're wearing. I guess these taonga are important pieces of history that tell a story, and we may not know all those stories yet.